Personal Finance Roadmap. In this video, I'm going to share some very basic information on how and where and when you should start putting your financial house in order. It's a personal finance roadmap. Let's get started. The first and most important thing is you must have an emergency fund. The first step on your financial journey is to create a 6 to 9 months emergency fund made of what it would cost to live if you were to lose your source of income. This should be put into a savings account that you can access at any time. You're looking for access and safety of your money, not profit. It is the failure to success formula because without an emergency fund, you will always be living paycheck to paycheck. You'll always be struggling because you really have nothing to fall back on if things happen. Now let's talk about that. Pay yourself first. You should live on 90% or less of your income. From any source of income, put aside at least 10% as a buffer beyond the amount in your emergency fund. Why? Because shit happens, and when it does, you want to have some cash available. Let's read that again. Why? Because shit happens, and when it does, you want to have some cash available. Again, you should have live on 90% or less of your income. From any source of income, put aside at least 10% as a buffer beyond the amount of your emergency fund. That means you create your emergency fund. Find out how much your light, your phone, your rent, your gas, your insurance, all the expenses that cost to run your life. Figure out how much it is for 3 months. The ideal is to have it for 6 months, put away in a safe bank account. It doesn't matter if you earn no interest, but you have it there as a buffer. And it's a lot cheaper than drawing it on a credit card. Because when shit happens, be ready for it. As these tissues are butt hurt, safe place tissues. Now let's talk about the devil in the room, debt. In today's economy, the credit card has become like fire, a blessing and a curse. Sure, it gives you the ability to have immediate gratification, but it comes with long-term pain. Most credit cards come with rates as high as 26% and are the quickest way to get your financial life into a hole that will become harder to get out of as time goes on. You see the mousetrap of it. Now, how to reduce credit card debt? The fastest method to eliminate credit card debt is first, pay off the card with the highest interest rate. Make your largest payment on the card with the highest interest rate. 2. Make maximum payments on all credit cards. Make the minimum payment on all the other cards until the most expensive card is paid off. So let's put that number 2 again, is make minimum payments on all the other cards. Make the minimum payments on all the other cards until the most expensive balance is paid off. 3. 2 cards with the same interest rate. If 2 cards have the same interest rate, make a larger payment on the card with the larger balance. 4. Maximize your interest savings. Maximize your interest savings by asking your issuer for a lower interest rate on your credit card. A small reduction is still money saved. All you do is call up and say, look, I've been paying regularly. I'd like to know if I could get a reduced rate. They tell you, no, we can't do it. You say, can I speak to a supervisor, please? A lot of times, the supervisor will come on and be willing to give you 1 or 2% reduction. Anything to help you start to dig your hole out of the hole. 5. Automating your payments. You might want to think about automating your payments so you never miss a due date on any of your credit cards, because missing credit card dates is the first thing to start increasing your interest rate. So let's talk about good debt versus bad debt. Good debt versus bad debt, an overview. There certainly is an argument to be made that no debt is good debt, but borrowing money and taking on debt is the only way people can afford to purchase big ticket items like homes and cars. While such loans usually are justifiable and bring value to the person taking on the debt, there's another end of the spectrum that involves taking on debt through careless spending on a credit card. Let's repeat that word again. Careless spending on credit cards. You don't feel the pain because you're just giving the card, but you don't forget that at the end of the month or next month you're going to be owing that money. Now, real estate, including household ownership, is a variety of ways to make money in real estate. On the residential front, the simplest strategy often involves buying a house and living in it for a few decades before selling it at a profit. Residential real estate also can be used to generate income by taking in a boarder or renting out the entire residence. Commercial real estate also can be an excellent source of cash flow and capital gains for investors. Now, the investment in real estate offers many wonderful tax write-offs, tax advantages. A homeowner writes off the interest, the taxes that they pay on the house. There's a lot of advantage to ownership, and while you're paying down the debt, you're increasing your equity because house values normally go up over time. So knowing the difference between good and bad debt. Good debt helps you generate income and increase your net worth. You invest in education, in property, and business loans. Bad debt generally used for depreciating assets means that value goes down. Credit cards, there's no value in that. And cars, of course, they go down value. That's why if you don't drive more than 12,000 miles a year, leasing might be an alternative not to get yourself into a long-term debt. The market of the greater fool. The stock market is the market of the greater fool. The seller thinks the buyer is a fool for buying something the seller thinks will lose value, while the buyer thinks the seller is a fool for selling something he thinks will go up in value. Yes, it is the market of the greater fool. When can you invest? First rule of investing is only invest what you can afford to lose. Let's repeat that. First rule of investing is only invest what you can afford to lose. This means you have paid off your credit card debt, created an emergency fund, and have a cash buffer in the bank. Why do you need to do all these things first? It is because the market can be down when you need money, and you will get out far less than you put in. Mark Twain once said, October, this is the one of the peculiarly dangerous months to invest in stocks. The other are July, January, September, April, November, May, March, June, December, August, and February. A word to the wise. It's always a dangerous month to invest and speculate in stocks. So let's talk about what is investment versus speculation. Investing in the market requires a long-term commitment of at least 5 years. Why 5 years? On average, if you invest in the market long-term, 5 years should be enough time for you to recoup your losses because the market goes up and the market goes down. If you have a short horizon span and you're only in for a year or two, the market might be down and you won't be able to get your money back. An investment can be thought of as something that you have researched that promises a safety of principal and a satisfactory return. Investment not meeting these requirements are considered speculation. So, what are stocks versus bonds? Bonds are debt while stocks are stakes of ownership in a company. On the other hand, bonds often pay out a fixed interest rate that the entity pays the investor out of annual interest rates to investors while repaying the amount in full at a given time. Now, that's a very important point, that you have a 5-year bond, a 10-year bond, a 20-year bond. They pay you out a dividend, and at the end of the period, they give you back the original price of the bond. Now, there are fluctuations in value in bonds. Meaning, if a bond is paying 3% and a new bond comes out and pays 5%, for you to sell your 3% bond to the guy who could get a 5% bond means you have to discount your bond. So the bond value can't go down, but bonds held to maturity will give you your full investment back. Unlike stocks, The value of stocks is based on the profits and future prospects of a company as judged by the market. A stock can go up in value and down in value, causing you to lose money. Now, stocks issues a stake of ownership in a company, a claim to a company's assets and earnings that often gives the investor voting rights and pays dividends, typically traded through a central exchange like the New York Stock Exchange, generally higher risk, higher return, higher reward. Since 1929, have earned around 10% each year, are issued by companies at a stock exchange as such as initial public stock offering. Now, what does that mean? That means that over all these many years since 1929, the stock market long term has returned on investment. But if you go into the market for a year or 2 years or even 3 years, you could lose half of your money, if not all of your money. So how do you protect yourself and how to reduce risk? You reduce risk by diversification. And what is diversification? Diversification is a risk management strategy that mixes a wide variety of investments within a portfolio. A diversified portfolio contains a mix of distinct asset types and investment vehicles in an attempt at limiting exposure to any single asset or risk. The rationale behind this technique is that a portfolio constructed of different kinds of assets will, on average, yield higher long-term returns and lower the risk of any individual holding or security. Now, what does that mean? A portfolio is just a package of investments put together, like in this diagram is showing stocks, cash, options, forex, bonds, futures, all different types of investments. But by having a diversified portfolio of investments, one side of the market could go down, forcing the other side of the market to go up. Like well, we talked about bonds. If the stock market goes up, bonds tend to go down because you could make more money in the stock market than in the bond market. Why would you be in the bond market? But conversely, if the stock market goes down, bonds go up because people run to safety, so they're willing to pay more. The basis of diversification. Diversification strives to smooth out unsystematic risk events in a portfolio. So the positive performance of some investments neutralizes the negative performance of others. The benefits of diversification hold only if the securities in the portfolio are not perfectly correlated. That is, they respond differently, often in opposing ways to the market influences. Now, you can get diversification through a mutual fund. And what are mutual funds? A mutual fund is a type of financial vehicle made up of a pool of money collected by many investors to invest in securities like stocks, bonds, money market instruments, and other assets. Mutual funds are operated by professional money managers who allocate the fund's assets and attempt to produce capital gains or income from the fund's investors. A mutual fund's portfolio is structured and maintained to match the investment objectives stated in the prospectus. Now, prospectus basically is a book that tells you what they're going to invest your money in. And it gives you the opportunity to say, well, I don't want to be in this type of stocks, or I don't want to be in those kind of investments. So the prospectus is what gives you what are the objectives of the fund. And the fund manager has to adhere to those agreements, that's what he's going to invest and that's how he's going to invest. Mutual funds give small individual investors access to professionally managed portfolios of equities, bonds, and other securities. Each shareholder, therefore, participates proportionally in the gains or losses of the fund. Mutual funds invest in a vast number of securities, and performance is usually tracked as the change in the total market cap of the fund, derived from the aggregating performance of the underlying investments. So, all kinds of mutual funds. You can have equity, a balanced fund, which is pure stocks and equity, or a balanced fund, which is stocks and bonds, or just a bond fund, or it could be a money market fund, which a money market fund is a very short-term investment that, just like a savings account, you do have the risk that you could lose money, but it's medium risk, even lowest risk compared to other mutual fund types. Now, the next thing is taxable versus tax deferred. Taxable, tax deferred, and tax exempt. Generally speaking, investments can be taxable, tax deferred, or tax exempt. The first step towards tax efficient investing is determine how your investments are structured under the law. If the investment is taxable, the investor must pay taxes on the investment income in the year it was received. Taxable income accounts include individual and joint investment accounts, bank accounts, and money market mutual funds. If the account is tax deferred, the money is sheltered from taxation as long as it remains in the account. Traditional IRAs and 401k accounts are examples of tax deferred savings. For tax exempt accounts such as municipal bonds, investors do not need to pay federal taxes even when the money is withdrawn. Now, if you're in a high tax bracket, these are great instruments to have income and not have taxable. Also, mutual funds, even if you don't take out the profit, you're still taxed on the growth. So if your fund declares profit, you will pay tax on it. And a tax deferred, even if it has profit, you don't pay tax until you take out the money. Each has its advantages and disadvantages. As a rule of thumb, tax efficient investments should be made in a taxable account, and investments that are not tax efficient should be made in a tax deferred or tax exempt account. Granted, not everyone has both. So as you can see here, Roth IRA, taxable, tax deferred, tax-free, capital gains, each one has its difference. Now, let's talk about retirement accounts. There are many types of retirement accounts. There's the Roth IRA that was named after Senator Roth, and it says that deposits are after tax. You first pay the tax on the money, but the growth is tax-free. Deposits after tax is your taxable individual accounts and trusts. So you pay the tax first, and it grows tax deferred. Now, deposits pre-tax is tax deferred, is that you didn't pay the tax on the money, so you pay tax on 100%. In a taxable investment where you pay the tax first, you're going to pay only tax on the profit in the future because you paid tax on the original deposit. So again, this is just a basic that I try to give you. It may have been a little quick, but you could go back over the video and repeat some areas to know more. Also, a good friend of mine always tells me, you don't know something, Google it. So in this, let me just give you some legalese. In this video, I've tried to give you the first stepping stones to your financial future. It is now up to you to learn more and do the hard work that your financial future requires of you. One day, the old you will ask the young you, what did you do with all the money we made during our working years? Information provided in this video are for informational purposes only, not intended to provide tax or legal advice or serves as the basis for financial decisions. Your needs, objectives, and experience will vary. Consult a qualified investment or tax professional regarding your individual situation. Now, let's talk between you and I. You can have all the daydreams you want, but you have to start putting your house in order. And the first thing you have to do, if nothing else, is create that emergency fund. Because this is where people go down the hole. By not having a backup plan, they lose their job, they have an accident, something happened, the wife got pregnant, you got pregnant. Whatever goes on in your life, you got a plan to save yourself for 6 to 9 months. And that's very, very important. I can't emphasize that enough. As always, thanks for watching. Please share and subscribe to our channel and our website, insuredmeds.com, for more information. All right, thanks again. I wish you the best. Happy investing, happy saving. and a happy future. Bye-bye.